Feeding the family in 1620 was a bit of a crapshoot for women like Susanna on land. Imagine when the food had to be stored without refrigeration, like on a ship at sea for months. Plus, cookery was a science, whether the women knew it or not. And the women had to learn the science without the Food Channel or even cookbooks. Bread, beer, and pies were made completely from scratch. No measuring cups, no thermometers, no timers. Could you do it? Maybe, if you were taught to from the time you were a child. Just like us, they were used to going to the market to buy bread and beer and everything else. Many families would raise chickens, and the wife or daughter would deliver eggs and live chickens right to your door, like my mother did in Los Angeles during the 30s and 40s. What about aboard ship? If a woman in 1620 is lucky enough to have a serving child, she instructs him to climb down into the cargo hold to ask Master Alden for their day's food ration, while she prepares a cold breakfast for her family, wards, and servants, plus the single men she's responsible for feeding. After breakfast, if there's no storm tossing the ship, she can begin preparations to cook the noon meal. Have you ever opened the refrigerator to see what's available? Let's see what they have. Every meal starts with rancid water. Historically, the Thames River has been called the Great Stink. By the 12th century, all of the rivers, lakes, and streams in England were polluted. In 2021, after a 25-year plan to clean England's waterways, their Environmental Protection Agency declared the water is still polluted. So no one drank the water. It was just for cooking. Cooking the staples of oatmeal, rice, or reconstituting twice-baked ship biscuits into a dumpling. They had protein choices to mix it up a little. Hard cheese for breakfast, salt pork, dried beef, or smoked fish for dinner. But they warned future immigrants not to bring salt pork as it makes you too thirsty. They also brought dried apples and plums for breakfast and dried peas for dinner. The natives were especially fond of the plums and the peas that they traded until they realized that trading away their food was not a smart move. Finally, cooking fat or butter, salt, spices, and flavorings to make spoiled food taste palatable. Most of the cooking butter, however, was taken to pay port taxes while they were still in England. On the Mayflower, they were ordered below for the majority of the voyage, but they had the right to use the cooking galley, where the stove's fire is overseen by the cook, who only cooks for the sailors. Notice how protected the fire is on a wooden ship? Smart. The women wait for their turn to reconstitute the dried staples for the hot dinner at noon, with enough left over for supper. The same meal every day for months. I can imagine Monty Python's version of the voyage. Oi, what's for supper, love? You want a snack? You know what we'll have him for supper. I just have to laugh. I think that's so funny. Okay, sorry. Most people think the Pilgrims starved to death, but they had plenty of food for that first winter. What did they lack? Clean water. After months at sea, puking into those slop buckets, the only thing they drank to rehydrate was beer, or they'd say beer. Every man, woman, and child, except the sucking babies, we would call them nursing babies, and no, they were still eventually drinking the beer. Everyone drank it. Once they made it to Plymouth, the natives introduced them to new foods, or foods. Because they were in charge of the kitchen garden, the women learned how to grow and cook the Three Sisters. Do you know what that is? Corn, beans, and squash grown together and then cooked together to make a complete protein. The Hopi women in Arizona still do. That's how I learned about it. But these were all new foods to the Pilgrim cooks. Even today's famous English breakfast didn't start including beans until 1886, when Heinz imported them from America.